If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put it up and forget about it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. If that makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on a beautiful Saturday morning as we're headed into this Labor Day weekend, and gardens are heading into full harvest mode. Mark,
It is harvest mode.
It is. We have bottled so many beans this last week. Oh, man.
Yeah, our corn came on like crazy. We harvested like a 6 cubic foot wheelbarrow. Yeah. Had a teeny bit of raccoon. A little bit, but not much. Yeah. So that's good. We didn't have too much trouble. But yeah, corn went crazy. Yeah, it went crazy. We tried a new variety this year. So we've been just growing bicolor corn varieties for the last few years, and we love the Optimum. And so we tried Nirvana this year, which is replacing Optimum. It's got a little bit better emergence from the soil if it's cold and wet. Yeah, so and it's got a little more disease resistance, but it tastes exactly the same. It's really amazing. But we thought we'd try its sister corn, which is an all white variety, and it's called Eden. And we've always liked the white corn because the white corn's usually a little bit sweeter. Yeah, it's a little bit sweeter. And so we're like, how can it be sweeter than the Nirvana, because it's so sweet already. And so we're like, let's just try a couple of rows. So we grew a couple of rows of the Eden, the white corn, and the Nirvana came on a little bit quicker. Eden's been a little bit later. Harvested some this week, started eating it. It's just like, okay, it is sweeter.
It is really good.
It is sweeter.
Wow.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah. So I think I have a new favorite variety of corn, but it's all white. Yeah. And since we grew it next to the Nirvana, and these are compatible, you can grow them side by side. They did cross a little bit, so there's a little bit of yellow mixed in with it. But oh man, it just pops in your mouth, and it's so sweet and good. So we were quite amazed with it. Yeah, quite amazed. Cucumbers have been just cranking them out, and the zucchinis have just been cranking them out, and we're ready to harvest onions, so I'll probably do that this week. I'll get the onions dug up, and we'll start getting those ready to store for winter. Onions look really good, but they're not as big as usual. We had to plant about 6 weeks, almost 8 weeks late this year. We were just really slow getting. Yeah, we were just really slow getting the onions in because of weather and whatnot. So this just didn't quite get them in as quickly as I would have liked, but that's the way it goes.
Neighbor and I were talking this week, and we were having the debate about which is better, pole beans or bush beans. We have always grown bush beans as long as I can remember. He is a proponent of pole beans. Partly because he told me his story. He said, I've always grown bush beans until one year I accidentally bought pole beans. Yeah. And all of a sudden I had them in the ground, and I thought, well, it was too late. So he started pole beans at that point. Yeah. And I can't really tell much of a difference.
Yeah.
But they sure are easier to pick.
Yes, they are much easier to pick, that's for sure. So the big difference between the pole beans and the bush beans is not in the quality, because the varieties of the pole beans and the bush beans, there's some amazing varieties out there that are just top-notch quality, but they do produce differently. So the pole beans, once they start producing, and they take a little bit longer to produce than the bush beans, so they're a little bit slower. But once they start producing, they will produce consistently until it freezes. So they'll just go and go and go and go, but you don't get as heavy a crop all at once like you do with the bush beans. And the bush beans, they will come on really heavy, and then they'll kind of take a little bit of a break, and then they'll come on again. But the bush beans are probably better for bottling, because you get a large picking almost all at once
that you can then bottle.
And just bottle and then kind of be done with it for the season, where the pole beans just kind of continuously keep going and going and going.
I was joking with my wife because we planted our garden late. I think I've mentioned that a few times because of some vacationing, and so my neighbor asked, "Hey, well, would you like some of our beans? Because ours are just barely coming on." And we said, "Sure." So we went up there, picked about 8 buckets full last Saturday, snapped them all, bottled them all, and it was almost like our garden was watching and became jealous, because then all of a sudden this week our bush beans decided to go nuts.
Crazy, went crazy. Hey, that's good. That's good.
Now we're like, okay, now what do we do?
Yeah.
We filled up all the bottles.
Oh, yeah. Former employee of ours bought a home in Wellsville, and they had a nice garden spot right there next to the garden, right there next to the house. And so they're like, "Oh, we got this big garden. What are we going to plant in there?" So they planted a whole bunch of different things. They decided to plant a 100-foot row of pole beans. Of pole beans. And so I think they bottled like 100 quarts, and they still had so many. They were just like giving them away crazy. Yeah.
Oh man.
So a few pole beans go a long way. Yeah, you don't need to plant 100 feet to get a lot of beans off of those suckers. But it's really nice to pick, because they're up off the ground.
They're
not
constantly
they're kind of waist high to eyeball high, and so you can just pick a lot. Yeah, you're not crawling around on your hands and knees picking. So it's very convenient that way, and that's the way we try and do our peas as well too. So we'll put our peas on trellises, and they don't get as tall, but it's much easier to pick the peas when they're right there, instead of again crawling all over on the ground trying to
scavenging through the bush.
Up. Yeah, it's kind of a pain in the neck, but.
We also want to talk about squashes and when to pick squash. And if you have a question for Mark, phone lines are open at 753-5868 and 1-800-369-5868 for the Garden Guide on this Saturday morning. It's heading into Labor Day, and normally we'd always say this is the end of summer, but Mother Nature...
It is still summery.
Is not ready to give up.
It is still summery, and so we still have to water the lawn. If you want to keep it looking good, got to water a little bit. But we have started cutting back. In fact, our pump decided to kick the bucket this week. I think it was like Sunday or Monday. It was making terrible noises. And so we've got secondary water, but we've got a pump that runs our sprinkler system, and so it did not sound good. And so I took it. Had a friend come over. We took it apart and took it down to see if we could get it repaired. And they called me yesterday and said it's toast. It's no good.
It's time to get a new one.
So here we got another one that is 25 years newer. We'd gotten 25 years out of it, so can't complain too much. Not too shabby. I said, we've got a new one that's 25 years newer, but it will match right up with your existing parts and everything.
Fittings.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, that would be awesome. It'll make it a lot easier to put together. So I took it home last night, got it to line up, bolted it in, turned it, plugged in, got all the wiring refixed, and did all that, and watered the lawn last night. So ours had gone 5 days without watering. We had a sprinkler to kind of hit hot spots that we were using off of our secondary water, but we've really cut our watering back though. We're down to just once every 4 or 5 days, and so the grass is doing great, but a deep watering, 3/4 of an inch per application, every 4 or 5 days is just fine right now. It's cooling down at night.
Yeah,
it's really cooling down at night, so you can really tell. So even though it's hot during the day, you can really feel it. It's much, much cooler at night, and we just don't have to worry about it being hot at night and drying everything out, and you don't have to water nearly as much. So, but
during the day, though, we're breaking records. Not yesterday. Yesterday was a little cooler. We hit only 92. We say only 92.
Only 92, yeah.
But we didn't break the record yesterday, but we have several other days prior during the week. So.
I'm sure we got some more rain in the forecast coming and some cooler temperatures. So it's September, so it's time for things to cool down and harvest like crazy for sure. So, but if you've got questions, give us a call. We are here to answer your questions and hopefully help you be more successful out in your garden. 753-5868, 753-KVNU, or 1-800-369-5868. We do have our first caller.
Yes, Suzanne joining us on the line from Preston. Susan, or is it Suzanne? Yes, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Good morning. How are you guys this morning?
We're doing great.
Good. My question is, I have some butternut squash plants. I think I have 2 of them, and they are going crazy. I've got butternut squash on them. They're all green. When do I pick them?
Great question. So the winter squashes, whether it's butternut or Hubbard or banana, what doesn't matter what it is, it's better to let them mature as long as possible out in the garden until we get a light frost. And the difference between a light frost and a hard frost is just a few degrees. So usually we'll get frost at like 32 degrees. It's safe to leave the fruits out there to about 28, 29 degrees. If we're going to get a light frost like that, it will just kill the plants, won't damage the fruit, and then right after that frost, you go out there and you cut the squash off. Usually I'll leave about 2 or 3 inches of stem left on the squash, and then we'll gather those up and put them in a warm, dry location. So in the barn or in the shed, somewhere where the sun's not going to shine right on them, but where it's going to be warm during the day and then not get too cold at night. And we're going to leave them there for probably 3 weeks until they develop a hard outer wrapper skin. And I had a gentleman in the other, actually yesterday, and he's like, I think my spaghetti squash are ready to go. That they're colored up nice. And I told him that to double check and make sure if they're ready, because if they ripen up faster, you can harvest them earlier if you want to. But usually what I'll say is take your thumbnail and just scrape the skin of the squash if you think it's ready. And if you scrape it and it leaves an indentation and then moisture bubbles up in that indentation like you really were able to scrape deeper into the skin, then it's not ready yet. But when you scrape it with your thumb and it's like so hard it feels like a rock and it's going to like break your thumbnail, then it's ready. That's when it's ready. But if we get a harder frost for our first frost, which can happen sometimes when our first frost is into October, harder frost, 28 and below, you want to harvest before that because it will freeze your fruit and it will damage it, and then it won't store it all for you. Yeah, we definitely don't want to freeze those. So hopefully that.
So when you bring it in and you've got it like in your shed or something for those 3 weeks, will it turn that orangey color?
They will color up. So if you harvest them and they're a little bit green, like say they're starting to show their mature color, but they're not quite there, you can harvest those a little bit green and they will mature in storage. So that works great. If they're like totally green, they may not mature far enough to really ripen up. But if they're starting to show some coloring, then you'll probably be okay. And we, like I said, we leave them in that warm, dry location for about 3 weeks, and then we move them to our storage location, which is somewhere between 38 and 48 degrees, and then get them up off the ground. So put them on a crate or on a pallet or something so they have a little bit of air circulation on them, and they will do much, much better. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thank you.
You're so welcome. Hey, thanks for calling this morning.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
And if you store those correctly, and if you've prepped them just right, they develop that hard outer skin. even though it's very difficult to cut into, they'll store for months.
Yeah,
you'll be able to enjoy it all the way into the spring.
Yeah, most of those will last for 4 to 6 months.
Yeah,
and so 4 to 6 months is like, say we harvest them in late September, early October. You get October, November, December, January, February, March.
Yeah,
you can keep them until March, and then we're starting to harvest greens again at that point. So
you will need a hacksaw to be able to cut it apart and cook it, but it will store forever.
Or an axe or a sledgehammer. You know, some of them are like really hard to get into, especially like the Hubbard squashes.
Yeah. We get
dynamite for those.
Spaghetti squash, and my wife says, go down and grab one of those. And I think, no. As much as I want to eat it, I just don't want to try to slice that
and
thing.
The winter squash tastes so good through the winter time, so you just can't resist those. Oh, we forgot to mention cash sale still going on. So the cash sale is going on at Anderson's, and we still have some nice fruit trees. We have some nice shade trees. We've got a few flowering trees. We've got some shrubs and some evergreens. And if you pay with cash, they are half price right now. So
you get 40% off with an additional 10%?
Yep, if you pay with cash. So it's 40% off if you pay with a credit card or with a debit card or with a check. But if you pay with cash, you get that extra 10%, and you can get 50% off.
50% off trees and shrubs.
And we did bring some new perennials in, and even though they are brand new, we decided to put those on the sale as well, too. And so we've had some gorgeous fall mums and some asters and a bunch of different stuff as well, too. So they've been part of the cash sale as well. So a little extra color for the fall since the weather's hanging in there and the plants are looking really good and our hanging baskets look great. Tobacco budworms are still eating our stuff, though. Man, they have been out of control. It's just like so many customers are having the same problem. And I was out on the deck last night just sitting there enjoying the cool temperatures, and I watched this little worm just crawl right across our petunias, and I was like, hey,
where'd you come from? Yeah,
it's like we just sprayed the other day.
Speaking of bugs, and for Suzanne, squash bugs right now. Seeing those even after spraying a few times.
They have gotten out of control. So the tobacco budworms, the grasshoppers, and the squash bugs have been just horrific this year. So they've been difficult to deal with. But we do have that sale going on at Anderson's. And, of course, we have garlic in stock as well, too. Great selection of variety on the garlic. I've got a lot of people calling and asking about fall bulbs, tulips and daffodils and hyacinths. They have not shown up yet. It's usually the week right after Labor Day. So I got my fingers crossed that stuff will start showing up next week.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've not heard anything firm, but usually it's the week right after Labor Day. And some years it's come before Labor Day, but the last 2 years they have been very slow, very behind schedule with the bulbs showing up. And so I got my fingers crossed that they're going to be arriving here shortly. So and we've got a couple more callers.
Yes, let's go back out to the phone lines. We have Jane joining us on the line from North Logan. Jane, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. This is a great day to be out gardening before it's too hot.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I was wondering if Mark could recommend some small woody shrubs that don't require a lot of sun. I've gotten 5 bayberries at Anderson's during their sale, but they all require a lot of sun.
Yes.
Is there something similar that would only need maybe 2 or 3 hours? They go in a courtyard, kind of small courtyard.
So there are some evergreens that do really well in the shade. So yews will do great. And so
can you spell that?
YEW.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So YEW. Boxwoods will do excellent in shade as well, too.
All right.
We have had an amazing selection of hydrangeas this year. And the hydrangeas do wonderfully in full or partial shade. So those would be excellent choices as well. Let's see.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a yew. What is that like?
Yeah, the yews, they're evergreen, so they don't drop their needles. They stay green all winter as well, and they are a soft needle plant, so they're not scratchy, like a pine or a spruce or even a juniper. They've got a real soft kneel to them, very dark green, and they come in some different sizes. And so some will stay low growing and kind of spread out. Others are more kind of blocky, and others are more upright. So it just depends on how big and how wide you'd like them to get. So, for example, Hicks yew ends up getting about 6 to 8 feet tall and about 3 to 4 feet wide, but a dense yew is kind of the opposite. It only gets about 4 feet wide, but it'll end up getting about 4 feet tall, but about 6 feet wide, and so it's wider than it is tall. And so you have some different habits on those plants on how tall and wide they get. But the yews would do a great job, and they can handle full shade as well as a lot of sun. I really like the boxwoods because they have a really soft, flat, broadleaf evergreen look to them, and so those would be excellent too. And the hydrangeas are gorgeous. We just planted some purple hydrangeas at our house, and they are so pretty right now. So they're purple. They come purple, they come blue, they come pink, they come red, they come kind of magenta, white, and the whites will turn a little bit green sometimes as well too on the flowers. And they flower for a long, long season. So great plants.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'll be in looking for some of those.
You are
Thank
welcome.
You so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, we're starting to get picked over a little bit with the sale going on, but we still have some really nice shrubs and some good-looking trees as well, too. So thanks for calling, Jane.
Okay. Thank you so much for your help.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome. Have a great weekend.
Same to you.
All right, and that frees up a phone line at 753-5868 and 1-800-369-5868. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Ted has been holding on the line. Ted, welcome to the show.
Is there what's the easiest way to tell if peaches are ripe?
Ooh, that's a great question. In fact, we just picked all of our donut peaches. So the variety is called Saturn, and it's a donut peach, so it's flat. So it looks more like a donut. It's kind of it's round, but it's flat on the top and the bottom, so it looks like a donut. And they were amazing. It's a white peach. What variety have you got?
Just out of the supermarket. They're grown here in Brigham.
Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of different varieties. Most of the peaches by mid-September are ready to go, and generally you can tell that they're ripe because they will very easily detach from the tree. If they're still a little green and not quite ripe yet, they'll cling a lot better. But the peaches, you get that nice exterior color, which depending on the variety could be kind of orange. Some have a deep red blush to them, and so you're going to want to watch for that nice color. When you pick them, you don't want them to be squishy, and if a bunch of them are getting squishy, then the rest are probably ripe as well too. But kind of a little bit of firmness to the fruit, and then they should detach fairly easily if they're ripe and ready to go.
What about the peaches you buy out of the supermarket that they pick green?
They'll pick those when they're still not quite ripe and ship them, and so there's varieties that will stay firm a lot longer as well too. Home orchard varieties tend to be softer and higher quality as well too. So the big orchards, they'll pick them when they're a little bit greener so they can ship them. But I let mine stay on there until they're fully ripe, and then they taste a lot better that way. So
the ones I buy out of the store, just let them sit in the sun or in the shade for a few days?
Yeah, don't let them sit in the sun, but you can leave them out, and they will ripen up on the counter a little bit. We're starting to see fruit flies a little bit at our house since we've had so much, so many vegetables and so many fruits coming in. We're starting to see a little bit of fruit flies, so we're trapping those guys as well too. But usually you can leave them out on the counter. If you want them to last a little bit longer, just gently wrap them up in plastic and put them in the refrigerator, and they'll last longer that way as well too. But you can leave them out, and they'll ripen up.
So when they start to get soft to the touch, or that means they're ripe.
That's when they're ripe. Yep. And then I'll cut them open, and you can tell by looking at the pit, and the pit will detach a lot easier when they're fully ripe as well too.
All right, thank you.
Yep. My favorite way to tell if they're ripe is to just eat them.
To eat it, yeah.
Best way,
Okay,
best way known to man, Ted. Yeah,
a lot of times, Ted, you can just take those peaches if they haven't ripened enough at the store. You can just put them in a bag and just close that bag, just a paper bag, and just wrap those peaches in a paper bag. Close the top. All fruit give off basically this
it's a gas.
Yeah,
I think
gas that helps it to ripen.
I'll have to look it up. I think it's methylene.
I'm trying to remember what it's called. Yeah.
And it makes them ripen. Yeah, and that's why we don't store fruit in with our vegetables in the wintertime. So, like if we're storing some squash and some potatoes and onions, we will store our fruit in a different location than we keep the vegetables, because the fruit give off that gas and it makes the vegetables like deteriorate faster. Yeah. So
just put it in a little paper bag and setting it there on your kitchen counter. That'll help them ripen right
up. Thanks for calling this morning, Ted.
Okay, bye.
All right. Have a good one.
So the cash sale you mentioned is going on right now.
Yes, cash sale's going on right now. And so all of our remaining vines and trees and flowering trees and fruit trees and shrubs are 40% off if you pay with cash. If you pay with a check or debit card or credit card. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off, and so you can get 50% off. Yeah, it's a great deal. Can't beat it.
Okay.
No, we're finding homes for those plants.
Yes.
Yeah, finding homes for those plants. We did get
maybe some ewes that Jane could take a look
was
at.
Asking about. We did get our parking lot resealed this week, and so it looks really good. And we've had to move a lot of the plants from the parking lot into our nursery section, but there's still a lot of good ones to choose from.
Okay.
Yeah, some really nice fruit trees for sure. But I think we're out of peaches now. We had peaches, and then the peaches have all disappeared again. So
they're popular.
They are super popular, that's for sure.
We have our bottom of the hour news break. As Bill's standing by in the newsroom with a news update. We'll get to that and take more of your calls. 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. As we come back, we'll take more of your calls about watering, too, as we've got these 90-degree temperatures that are going to continue over the next couple of days. You're listening to The Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU.
I'm Bill Walter, KVNU News. Earlier this week, a national study claimed the Logan City School District was among the least equitable districts in the state, claiming the district did not spend much on its students based on average community income. However, the district says the study is flawed and does not capture the full experience. Logan Superintendent Frank Schofield says questions about student equity should consider an even broader set of data points and information, including class sizes, teacher salaries, consistency of staff, and results in the classroom. The average class size in Logan Elementary schools right now is 23 students and only 17 in kindergarten.
Our board feels very strongly about the value of early childhood education and making sure that those students in those entry-level years or those beginning years are getting a really solid experience. So we've kept our elementary class sizes very low.
Schofield says reducing teacher turnover is another key factor to a school's success, something he refers to as consistency of staff. High school football Friday night, it was Logan losing at Woods Cross 45-21. Morgan shut out Green Canyon 24-0. Bonneville shut down Mountain Crest 27-0. It was Mountain Ridge over Skyview 13-3. And Ridgeline edged Minico of Idaho 21-20. Box Elder beat Bear River 29-13. Hot weather throughout the weekend, upper 90s for the high each day. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, lows from the low to mid 50s. The high on Friday was 92. You can always get more news at CashValleyDaily.com.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd Ant. Serena Williams giving an emotional farewell speech following what may have been her last professional tennis match at the U.S. Open Friday night after losing her third-round match to Australia's Isla Tomljanovic in 3 sets. The 23-time Grand Slam champion held back tears while thanking her team.
But it all started with my parents, and they deserve everything, so I'm really grateful for them.
When asked if she'd consider coming back, Serena responded,
I don't think so, but you never know. I don't know.
Barring a change of mind, Serena leaves with 23 Grand Slam titles. The Tampa Bay Rays move within 5 games of the AL East leading New York Yankees with a 9-0 victory on Friday night. Yankees skipper Aaron Boone called the loss embarrassing, and the Astros continue to heat up into the pennant race as Houston knocked off the Angels 4-2. The Stros have won 8 of their last 11. This is ABC Sports.
Cache Valley, the Utah Wood Stove Changeout Program opens up February 1st. If you want to change out your wood fireplace or stove and replace it with a gas appliance, Advanced Fireplace and Stove can help. Receive up to $3,800 towards your new gas stove or fireplace insert. Idaho has a changeout program too. Let the professionals at Advanced Fireplace and Stove take the chill out of winter with a new Heat and Glow insert or Vermont casting stove. Stop by their showroom or visit them at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Weather changes are tough on your transmission. As we move to colder winter weather, AMCO Transmission invites you to bring your vehicle in for preventative maintenance before the snow flies. Have a diesel pickup, Cummins, Duramax, or Power Stroke? AMCO in Logan is your transmission specialist, and they promise to get you in quickly. For over 50 years, AMCO Total Car Care has been experts in repair for transmissions, brakes, tune-ups, and more. Find your local AMCO at 75 West, 2000 North. Call 752-1940.
Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology would like to thank you for voting them Best Audiologist 2 years running in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Daines by calling 753-HEAR or visit cachehearing.com.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Hi, this is Chris Wilson at Wilson Motor Company. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, now is the time to buy during our Labor Day clearance sales event. We have reduced the prices on over 150 pre-owned vehicles with over 125 4x4 trucks and all-wheel drive vehicles. We can help you find the right vehicle. Check out our inventory online at wilsonmotor.com or drop in for a test drive at one of our 2 great locations.
Wilson Motor Company, we make car buying easy.
The Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
All right, and welcome back to the show on this beautiful Saturday morning. Hot weekend ahead of us. Temperatures, as Bill was saying, mid-90s over the next several days. Could even break some records again. I was just checking. The record for today was 94 back in 2017. So it's possible
so we could get close. Yeah, we could get close. 94.
Yeah, yesterday we hit 92, so we'll see.
2017?
Yeah.
I don't remember being that hot in 2017. But, yeah, it's memory short, 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. And you did a little research while we were on the break.
So it's ethylene that the fruits produce, and it's not all the fruits. So it's really interesting because, like, apples produce a lot of ethylene, so you don't want to store your apples with a lot of your vegetables. But varieties of fruits like tomatoes are ethylene absorbers, and so you can get the tomatoes to ripen up if you put them in there. Yeah, so so if you store like more green tomatoes that aren't quite ripe, but you store those in with your apples while they're producing the ethylene, then the tomatoes will absorb the ethylene and then they will ripen up. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Yeah,
bananas are a big ethylene producer.
Yeah, bananas go like crazy as well, too. So, yeah.
If you need to ripen anything up, throw a banana in with it.
But see, if you have your apples stored where your banana squash or your butternut squashes and your onions, then it will make them deteriorate faster because they're absorbing the ethylene as well too, and so then they'll ripen up quicker and then they'll deteriorate. And so you got to be a little careful which critters you're storing with each other.
What you want to ripen and what you want to preserve.
Yes.
Well, our phone lines are open, 753-5868, and let's go right back out to the phone as we have Ron joining us on the line. Ron, welcome.
Thanks. I've got box elderbugs in abundance. I've been advised to use 5 tablespoons of something like Dawn in a gallon of water and try and drown them. What do you suggest?
Oh, the Dawn does not work very well, and it foams up to the point where you have a lot of foam with the soap as well too. Box elder bugs are difficult to control. Most insecticides do not work on them, but most of the synthetic pyrethroid family does. So permethrin, bifenthrin, Tempo, Seismic, any of those products. So we use a 38 Plus from High Yield is awesome. The indoor-outdoor from High Yield, the Bug Blaster from High Yield, those all work very, very well on box elder bugs and on elm seed beetles, but it also works on spiders and ants and earwigs and grasshoppers that we're seeing a lot of right now as well too. So south side of the house, kind of concentrate on the south side of the house, around the windows, around the doors, anywhere where the box elder bugs are hanging out and having a heyday. That would work great, Ron. And usually most of those last 2 to 3 weeks, sometimes a little bit longer, so you don't have to spray too frequently to get good control on the box elder bugs.
So when the box elder bugs are abundantly covering my fruit and sucking the juices out of the fruit and damaging the fruit,
yes.
Maybe permethrin is not a recommended option.
The permethrin is safe on most fruits and vegetables up to a couple days before you harvest. On the new version of 7, which is Zeta cypermethrin, so this is also in the same family, safe for a lot of the fruits and vegetables up to 24 hours before you harvest. So you could definitely use that and protect your fruit a little bit. Yeah, do a great job.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. You're going to have to bring some white nectarines down for me to sample this year, Ron.
I'm going to try and protect them from
the box elder bugs are eating your share.
Darn them. I planted Arctic J last year, which is a white nectarine, and I've got it in a secluded, protected spot over by my donut peach, and it's maturing quite nicely. It has about 5 nectarines on it. So every day I'll go out there and drool over it, and so I can hardly wait, Ron. It's getting close.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
All right, and that frees up a phone line, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. Box elder bugs, unfortunately, are only going to get worse over the next month or two.
Yes.
The best way to get rid of box elder bugs is Mother Nature's way of just freezing them and killing them.
Yeah, the problem is, though, it's like we start getting cold temperatures and they just kind of get dormant, and then the sun comes out, and then they get really active again, and then it almost makes them reproduce more. So we're going to have, looks like we're going to have a heavy box elder bug season for fall because they're really going nuts, and spiders too. Really starting to see a lot of spiders. So we've got to do a little bit of prevention at our house, get some traps going down the basement, and then do a little selective spraying out there. Yeah, the Seismic is really the only way to go because it's so safe to use, has that long residual. It works on hobo and aggressive house spiders that a lot of their insecticides, they'll just crawl right through it and it won't affect them at all. Yeah, it doesn't affect them, but the encapsulated ones, it does, and it does a really, really great job.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, Neil's joining us on the line from North Logan. Neil, thanks for calling in this morning.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I have a couple of quick questions. First one's about tomatoes. We kind of had like 2 different seasons. We had a dry season before that big rain we had, and plants weren't doing very good. And, we just had a couple. But since then, plants have flourished, and we're getting all sorts of tomatoes. What I'm worried about is if there's some way you can hasten the process before it gets too cold, and we have, like other years, a ton of green tomatoes that never ripen.
Exactly. I know that feeling. A couple of my tomato plants are just going crazy, and some are just really slow to ripen. And we need those warm daytime temperatures to kind of continue to get them to ripen up, but we also want warmer nighttime temperatures. So we have discovered recently that we definitely don't need the air conditioner on at night because it's nice and cool. The temperatures are dropping dropping at night, and we're getting that nice canyon breeze over at my house. And it will slow down the ripening process of the tomatoes and the peppers. And so to get them to ripen up, we need to trim the plants back a little bit so you can get the sunlight into the plant to get the fruit to ripen up. So do a little bit of selective pruning. If you've got a lot of vegetation, a lot of extra growth, you can start pruning those tomatoes back to get some sunlight in there to get the tomato, like the fruits, to ripen up. But then, even though we're not getting freezing temperatures, you can start covering the tomatoes with frost cloth in the late afternoon, and it will retain the heat through the nighttime, and it will get your fruit to ripen up a lot faster. So we are enjoying the cooler temperatures at night, but the plants need it to be warmer for them to ripen up. And so doing a frost cloth or some sort of covering to help retain that heat, but something that allows the air to pass through. So don't do plastic, but do the fabric, the frost cloth, and it will really ripen your fruit up considerably. So what we do is we'll start cutting the water back so they start to stress in between waterings, but then we'll water them really heavily after that. We will trim the plants back, so get some of that extra vegetation, trim that off so that the sunlight can get into the plants, and then cover them, and you can get them to ripen up a lot faster.
Oh, okay, thanks. And then another quick question.
Yeah.
We finally decided with some help that our apple tree is pretty iron deficient.
Okay.
My question is, do I start treating that now, or is it too late in the season, and do I wait and start it in the spring?
It would not hurt a bit to treat right now, and you're not going to see a huge difference depending on how large the tree is, because the iron's going to move about a foot a day. And if you use a chelated iron, it'll be able to pick it up fairly quickly. So maybe in a couple weeks you would see the leaves really greening up. But they might not get completely green by the time they start to turn yellow and fall off the tree for fall. But at least the iron will be into the tree. But then I would do it again about St. Patrick's Day, sometime between St. Patrick's and Easter for next year, and that would be perfect. Yeah, I would highly recommend that.
Is it too late to do the tree treats, or should they be done in the spring?
If you do the tree treats, it would not hurt to do those right now. I just wouldn't do too many, because if your tree's severely deficient and stays really hot, it can burn your tree. But then you could do them again next spring. And we had Dave from Bicor on the show with us, and he said he's actually used the same holes before, and that has worked out quite nicely. I've never done that, but he said that he has, and it makes it so you don't have to drill new holes into the tree every single time. So, yeah, should work.
All
great.
Right,
Neil.
thank you.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling.
All right, phone lines open, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. And apples are similar to squash. We were talking to Suzanne earlier. When to pick apples is we got to give them that light frost. Light frost needs to hit a couple times, and then those apples will be great to pick.
They really sweeten up.
Yeah,
but some of the apples don't need that frost. So like we've been harvesting all of our yellow transparent and our Lodi's, and I've been making pie out of them.
They're already sweetened up.
They've been so good. It's a summer apple, so they're ready in August. So it's my birthday, middle of August, and so I like to have that pie for my
apple
birthday.
Pie.
Yeah, and since Mom's not around anymore, had to make it myself this year. So it turned
great
out
tradition.
It turned out really, really good. I have not perfected the crust yet, though. So we've been kind of working on the crust. So we got to get the pie lady, the crust coming from Perfect Pie Dough. Hopefully this month we'll have the perfect.
Oh, you
pie
were
dough.
mentioning from up in Grace.
Yeah. So we've been selling that for years. I mean, we're talking decades. We've been selling this stuff, and we started in the 80s bringing that in, and it used to be made in Montpelier, and then the lady that had perfected the recipe sold it to London Drug in Grace, Idaho, and then they sold it to someone else, and so now they're called Perfect Pie Dough, and they're located in Grace. They make it right there. Unfortunately, the owner damaged her shoulder last year. I think it was about October, and had to have rotator cuff surgery, and just had a lot of complications and stuff. And so she has not been able to make it since I think our last batch that we had was right around Thanksgiving, and then we ran out, and we haven't been able to get any more since. And she's just still been recovering. And during the meantime, they've decided to improve their facility. So they did some reconstruction and some stuff to improve their process. And I think this month we're going to have pie dough again.
Coming back.
Perfect timing for apples.
Yeah.
So it'll be
peaches
perfect. So we're hoping to have the perfect pie dough. But if you've never tried their pie dough, it is like Grandma used to make pie dough.
Oh, wow.
and they use lard. I mean, so they use all great ingredients.
Natural products.
All natural
Really?
stuff. And it's good in the freezer for about 2 years. So you buy it frozen. Each brick will make like a nice thick top and a bottom, or you could maybe get 3 thinner bottoms out of it. But each brick will make a pie, and it takes about 2 hours for it to thaw, just sitting on the countertop. Or you can like do little short bursts of heat in the microwave to get it to thaw out. But it just rolls out perfect, and it cooks perfect like every time if you follow the directions. And it's about as easy as it gets to do pie dough, but it's called Perfect Pie Dough. And we have been out for about 10 months, but we will be restocking our freezer here really soon. So we'll make sure and talk about it on the show. But I've got people that like every week they're calling, "Have you got pie dough in? Have you got pie dough in?" Yeah, and it's funny because here we are a garden store and we carry pie dough, and it's not out on the sales floor. It's in the back room where the freezer is. We don't have a freezer out on the sales floor, and so it's funny. People who've never bought it before, they will walk in the front door. They come up to the seed counter. They kind of look around. And they have this really funny look on their face, and they go, "Do you guys have pie dough here?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's in the back room. How many,
let's go grab it.
How many would you like?" And it's funny because they just kind of look in. It's a garden store, and they're just like, "What is there pie dough here?" And they come and ask. It's like, "Yeah, it's in the back room." It's like, how many? And they come in like bags of 6. And or we can buy just one at a time, and we sell them both ways. But the Perfect Pie Dough is amazing, and I can hardly wait to get some in because I haven't got my crust down quite yet.
Still working on it.
Still working on the crust. So we'll get it. We'll get her figured out one of these days. But the pie itself is amazing. So when you do the transparents, they turn more into applesauce when you cook them. So they just get really soft and squishy. Yeah. And so we'll add a little bit of tapioca to get a little gelatin going with it. And they're just amazing. But if you like firm, hard apples in your pie, this is not the apple for you. This is like soft, gooey apple.
Okay.
It's like apple jello.
Yeah.
When it's all done, but it's like so good, and it's really tart, and so it's got this really tart flavor, but enough sweet to it that it's just
really
it's the best. Yeah, it's the best. So.
Well, still time to take maybe 1 or 2 more calls. 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. We're kind of, as we've been mentioning, in the middle of the harvest season. Beans and squash, and we even harvested our rhubarb. I think I've joked with you about our rhubarb plants. Yeah, my daughter and I, we did up several bottles of rhubarb jam. That's
nice.
one of our favorite recipes, and so, everything seems to be coming on all at once.
Yes, it is. That's the best time to be out in the garden for sure. And since it is hot, the plants will ripen up a little bit faster. So our corn has really come on quickly. Like it's all ripened all at the same time. And, we really want those tomatoes to ripen up. That was a great call. Great question from Neil. And our peppers, I picked like half a bushel of peppers the other day that were just all mature color, and they're just coming on. They're coming on great right now. But the heat is kind of hard on the plants, so make sure that you're doing a good deep watering about every 4 or 5 days, and especially for lawns as well too. And if your lawn's really taking a beating this year, now's a really good time to put the Back to Green on there, because if you hit it with the Back to Green, not only will it really green the lawn up, but it'll help so that when we do start getting those rainstorms, your soil will hydrate up better, and it will hydrate and hold the moisture better for fall and winter, not just for lawns, but for trees and shrubs as well too, which is kind of critical. So if your lawn's taking a beating, through the summertime, now's the time to put some Humate and some Back to Green on there. Okay. It's a perfect time to put that on. So we recommend a good fertilization right around Labor Day. So instead of doing your fertilizer, you can do the Back to Green, and then you can do some Humate as well too, and really get your grass to recover and recuperate from the hot, dry summer, especially if you've been conserving water and cutting back. A lot of people, instead of watering 3 times a week this year, they were just doing 2 or even just once a week, and the lawns have kind of struggled a little bit. But with it starting to cool down, this is a perfect time to really rejuvenate that.
Treat it.
Yeah, rejuvenate that turf. So let's get some fertilizer on there, like a Green Maker type product, or a 23-316 would be great. Or you could do Back to Green, and then whichever option you go with, add some Humate. The Humate's really going to help your grass recover and recuperate quicker. Let's put some nutrients, some minerals and micronutrients back into the soil, and some beneficial microbes to really, really perk that lawn back up and get it looking good before fall and winter sets in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because it's coming.
Good time.
It may not feel like it right now as we're still in the mid-90s, but winter will be coming.
It is coming. Yeah, I can feel it.
Gordon is joining us on the line from Newton. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How we doing, guys?
Doing great, Gordon.
Good.
Hey, I thought I should call and report on my Hydratane. This is the first year that I've used that on my lawns, and it's amazing stuff.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah, with Newton Dam going empty so soon, I was reluctant to use secondary water unless I really needed to. And so we've been very, very careful. I've only watered my lawns full 4 times all summer.
Yeah.
And they look pretty doggone good, surprisingly. For that, I hit a few hot spots, but other than that, the Hydratane has just been miraculous.
It really does a great job. And then you get a storm, every now and then, and it just pulls all that moisture right down into the ground, right into
and holds
the root
on
zone.
to it.
Yeah, it really does. So that's not bad. I'll bet that big rainstorm we got first part of August just really perked your lawn up too.
It was a blessing. Yeah, we were literally just going to water, and then it rained. We went, we can wait again.
Yeah.
We put it off.
That's amazing. So four waterings from June until now.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
Now I have to admit, I've kind of I think it's not purslane. What's the other one? I think it's spurge that's kind of taken over.
Yeah.
It stays really green, So if you just mow the spurge.
It stays very green, doesn't it? Yeah, it stays very green.
It does. So there have been portions of the lawn that I think that's kind of carried them through now. So that's my next question. How do I get rid of my spurge? Is that something I do in the fall, or is that something I do in the springtime?
Fall is the best time to control pretty much all the weeds that have snuck into your lawn since spring. And so with the temperatures cooling down, the weeds can sense that the days are getting shorter and the night times are getting colder. And so they're going to start storing energy down in the root system to make it through winter. And so if we apply an herbicide anytime between now and about mid-October, it thinks the herbicide is fertilizer. It runs it down in the root system and it kills it. And so between now, usually Labor Day, and about Halloween at probably the latest, that's like your prime time for killing weeds in your turf. So weed-free zone would be amazing on the spurge, so that would do a super job. Just a good old Trimec product like Weed Out would work excellent as well too, and definitely use a surfactant in there with it. So I was just at a trade show and learned a bunch of new things and saw some new products for next year, but one of my favorite products still is the Nano Boost. And I think I gave you a sample of the Nano Boost. Use the Nano.
And I tried that. It's miraculous too. Yeah. And I kind of did some with and some without, and the Nano Boost is amazing.
It is. I've never used anything like it, and it's expensive, and it just goes, but nothing works quite like it. And so that in with your herbicide this time of year, you're going to have just like the best control you've ever had. But then next year, we're going to want to do a pre-emergent to work on the spurge, and the spurge germinates later than the crabgrass, and so if you put your pre-emergent on too early, like the end of March, it's not going to work on the spurge. So usually we're telling people mid-April for the pre-emergent to really do a good job on the spurge, and sometimes we'll tell them to hit it again around Mother's Day if you've got some late spurge germination going on. But usually your crabgrass preventer, like Dimension, prodiamine, would do a great job to prevent that spurge from coming back. So
okay,
it'll work.
And then I was going to kind of hold off until a little later because there are some sections that I may need to overseed. How late can I go and still then be able to overseed some of the areas where it really got heavy?
Yeah. Right now, from now until, again, about mid-October is the best time of year to overseed. And so you can do it anytime then. But if you're doing the herbicide, you want to do it right after you've sprayed. You could apply you could apply the grass seed like a few days after you've sprayed for weeds, and it would be just fine. Yeah, it'd be just fine.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's the plan we'll use then.
All right.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for calling, Gordon. Hey, appreciate the call. Have a great weekend.
All right. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.
We've got about a minute left. We want to mention again the cash
sales going on.
Continuing through this Labor Day weekend.
Yep. So it's 40% off all of our remaining trees and shrubs and vines, and even some of our perennials as well, too. If you pay with a credit card or a check or a debit card. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off, and so you can get that 50% off discount on our good-looking plants. We've got some nice fruit trees. There's some really nice apples and cherries, some plums as well, too. Last I looked, there were some pluots, so there were some plum-apricot combos. Yeah, so there are some pretty good trees out there still.
Okay.
You just never know what you're going to find. Garlic is in. Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths should be here in the next week or so, and so that's going to start happening. We should have talked about some of the stuff I saw at our trade show. We saw some cool stuff, but maybe next time.
Do that next week.
Yep, we'll be back with another edition of the Garden Guide.
102 FM, 610 AM, the voice of Northern Utah.